Commissioner Barlin.
Here.
Commissioner Parker.
Here.
Judge Clymer.
Here. And Commissioner Barlow, you out for our prayer, please?
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day. We thank you for the opportunity we have to gather together today, Father. We just pray you be with us as we discuss the business of this county, that we all will keep an open mind to comments made by those for and those against. And we just pray that the fruitful fruit from this meeting will help to better this county. Father, we ask you to be with us day by day. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, we stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first let me thank you all for coming. And we've got a bunch of people standing in the back. Is there, if you can make room, if somebody can maybe scoot toward the middle or something. We've got some people that can't find a seat apparently. But, let me give you a little preview of how we're going to go about this. First of all, as you know, and the reason you're here, we're here to address you and you address us concerning a proposed insurance tax for McCracken County. Anyone who wishes to speak, we ask that you give Ms. Potts over here your name, put you on a list. As you just heard, we'll call a name, ask you to come up here to the lectern so your voice will be amplified and we can hear you. We have, since we have such a large audience, and I didn't look to see how many actually signed up to speak, but we're going to put a 3-minute time on your talk, and during that 3 minutes, what we'll do, we will not interrupt you, we will not ask you questions, but at the same point, we won't answer or engage with questions from you as your time is running. At the end, when we get everybody is done saying whatever they want to say and within their time limit, as you're speaking to us, we'll be making notes and things that we think we need to address. Maybe there's some, and I've heard already, there's some misconceptions, there's some ideas that are not quite accurate, and we'll want to address those, and also address some things that you've brought up during your talk. But we want everybody to have a full and equal opportunity to talk. So I hope you can understand if you start engaging us and say, I want to know the answer to this question, and we might all four want to answer that, and next thing you know, your time's gone and you go sit down. So we're going to give you that full 3 minutes, and then at the end, as I say, we'll come back and address those questions and answer those things. I want to ask that everybody please be respectful of everybody else. I don't think we would have any problem there. I also want to address just some misconceptions, some misinformation that we've already run into. It may help you in shaping your comments to us. First of all, it's the city and not the county who's building or talking about building an aquatic facility. The county got nothing to do with an aquatic facility, and we've had several people say they're against that. So we're not doing that. That's the city. It's also along the same line. It's the city, not the county, that's considering putting a hotel downtown. We're not putting a hotel downtown. The city has a 7% insurance tax. It includes a tax on health insurance. Our discussion is not about a 8% tax. It is about the possibility of putting in place a 6.9% insurance tax on auto and life insurance. My phone, for some reason, is recording everything I'm saying. I must have said something sounded like "Hey Siri," I guess, a while ago. So our discussion is about the possibility of 6.9% on auto and life insurance and a 4.9% tax on casualty, inland marine, fire and allied, and all other risks, but zero on health insurance. Also, if you're paying a city insurance tax, you won't pay county insurance tax. There's been some questions about do I have to pay twice, double dip, and that's not the case. Also, we're not building sports fields or complexes with this proposed tax insurance. They're supported by a hotel tax, so visitors coming into our community pay that through a tax on their room rate. Also, there's been some concern. We did not set this at 1:30 in the afternoon, so working people couldn't get here. We set it for people that couldn't be here at other times. We're going to have another meeting just like this at 5 o'clock, starting at 5 o'clock next Monday, so that people who work during the day maybe couldn't be here can be here at 5 o'clock in the evening next Monday. And of course, we'll probably be running for a good while. So trying to accommodate as many people as we can. And along with that, I wanted to just walk you through this board over here. Again, I think the more information you have, the better you can frame your comments to us. And I think we can maybe be more accurate in what we talk about. Why we need a revenue in general. We've spent from savings for over a decade. We have a very low reserve, we call it, or savings account because of that. There was $8.6 million in a reserve in 2011. And we're now, let's see, at $767,000 in October of 2018. Because our reserves have dwindled so much, what has happened, just to be blunt about it, is in years past, the McCracken County has we've done some good projects, but in many of them there was not a ordinance or a mechanism that was created to fund that project. And so things have to be paid for. And so a lot of that was paid out of reserves, and that's why the reserves dwindled quite a bit over the years. Our bond rating reduced due to our poor financial condition, primarily because our reserve was at such a low point. It may be that $767 million sounds like a lot of money. In government, the size of this government, it's not. With any sort of catastrophe, or even last year we had a flood and a tornado both. Any sort of unexpected expense can eat that up rather quickly. And so our bond rating reduced, which means that our ability to borrow money, when we get down to low savings, like you guys in your business or home, you run low on cash, what are you going to do? You might look at borrowing money, and the better your bond rate is, the better lower interest rate and the better ability you have to borrow money. Our bond rate has increased because of our low reserve. The tax rate today is 14% less than it was in 1990. Now, think about that just a minute. 30 years, there's not been a tax rate increase, and in fact, we're 14% less than the rate that was paid 30 years ago. Some of you don't believe that, obviously. So you shake your head no. You believe what you're going to believe. Everybody probably has read or heard about our PBA grossly under assessing properties for decades. That's true. Some of the idea is, well, once our property gets reassessed at the where it should be, then that money will come flooding in. The problem with that, and we can talk about more, is there's a law that says a county's income cannot increase by more than 4% of what it was the previous year. So even if we found $1 billion worth of increased value in the county, we tax that, our income from that can increase only 4% over what our gain was from property tax the year before. So what happens is we have to reduce our tax rate way down to accommodate for that, and it levels out the amount. So that's not the big bank that people think that it is. That's the state legislature did that. That's not something we did. We obviously have to follow the law. We deferred costs of $500,000, $500,000 in paving that needed to be done. We hope we can get to this coming year. Obviously, that service that only the county does on county maintained roads. We deferred $1.1 million in equipment purchases and property maintenance that we're hoping we can get done. And I can tell you that just one example is one of our industrial parks. It has not been mowed, kept up for years. It was a point where years ago it would just be bush hog. Now you know the difference between bush hogging and now. Years later, because that was deferred, didn't do it. Instead of bush hogging it for a fairly low amount of money, now we got to go in with trackhoes and dozers and clean up the trees, and it's quite a more expensive project. Comparable counties taxed insurance for years. We never have had an insurance tax. They tax at about an average of 8.1%. Some do health, some don't do health. We looked at maybe 7 or 8 comparable counties, comparable best you can. No one county is exactly like us, but we go by population, area, income, property tax rates, that sort of thing. And so the average of those 7 or 8 is 8.1%, and we're proposing a considerably lower rate than that, and 0 on health. And so I think the point of that, to me, what's a way to see, to try to determine best what we need, and if you get down kind of in the weeds and start thinking about it, well, it's very difficult, and we try to get the Department of Revenue to tell us what will X amount of insurance tax on these insurances, given our population, what should it produce? What should we expect to get? You start thinking about insurance, everybody's got a different level, more or less. Some people have a lot of insurance, some people have a lot of equipment, some don't have so many, some people have 4 cars, some have 1. It's so across the board that we really can't find that out. But I think a pretty good comparison is comparable counties. What are they doing? Are they getting rich on 8.1? They're essentially meeting their requirements at 8.1, and again we're at 6.9 on 2, 4.9 on the others, and 0 on health. Property tax rates of the comparable counties have property tax rates that average 20% higher than we are. And those counties are growing by an average of about 9%, where McCracken County is not growing at all. Now, I can't stand here and try to tell you because we don't have insurance tax we're not growing, but I can tell you that I believe that if we have an insurance tax, if we have some tax, a revenue to that we can provide the services that need to be provided, then we tend to grow, bring in more business, bring in more families, our kids are playing on dump for soccer. We're in the process of turning that around, and so we'll do some things there. One of the big things that you hear that's in the news, pensions will increase by $3 million by 2025. We will reach nearly 100% of the wage in the sheriff's office and jail by 2028. So for every dollar we pay in wage, we're going to pay $1 in pension. I don't see the legislature doing anything about these pension costs. They're through the roof and climbing. Nobody doubts that. We've got a Democratic governor. We've got a supermajority Republican legislature. Can they come together and do something with the pension? I don't know. We hope that they can. Try not to be skeptical, but we can't really put any bank on that's going to be taken care of. That falls on us. And so there's just sort of some of the highlights, some of the things we hear from people. Before you raise tax, cut expenses. One thing that I didn't put on here is our employee count is 25 less today than it was 10 years ago, Steve? 10 years ago. So we had 25 more employees in county government 10 years ago than we do now. So 25 positions have been cut. Cut the fat. I can tell you, we really don't have fat to cut. We are there. We've been there for a while. You may have heard. I told commissioners, I said, given that everybody else, comparable counties are doing 8.1, we need to do, and our reserve being so low and our credit rating going down, we need to be in the 8% range. They disagreed and came up with a lower level, so that's what we're proposing. Majority, not all of you, disagree with having any tax at all. And so I just wanted to give to you that I don't like tax. I'm 66 years old. I worked all through my life, doing better now, as most of you probably are. I would ask you this: can you run your business? Can you run your farm, your home, whatever, on 1990 income and do what you want to do? Some of you laughing. But how are you going to do that? How are you going to run something? Now maybe you get the lot, maybe you fine, I don't know. But in general, theory being 30 years ago, and what do things cost? We did a little thing, fair deal, food and all that. And kind of roughly things at the grocery and stuff about twice what they were in 1990. I don't know, about whatever, TV's not cheap. That's probably not a good comparison. But everything in general has gone up. And I think you'd all agree with that. So we're looking at trying to function, try to make this county a prosperous county, make it a county that you can be proud of, and you just got to have some revenue to do that. Oh, one other thing, a misconception that people say, well, just do a small consumption tax, do a tax on food, do a tax on restaurants, do a tax on, that's fair, than just doing a tax on people who are responsible and buy insurance. The problem is the law does not allow us, a county our size at least, cannot tax consumption. We cannot tax food. We cannot tax restaurants. We cannot put a sales tax of any kind on anything. And so that limits us. And so hopefully that gives you some information. Probably better change your mind. You hear tax, like I hear tax, and say, don't want a tax. And you don't have to believe me, but I can tell you, I didn't take this job because I wanted something to do, or I wanted a paycheck. I was retired. I've got a pretty nice little RV sitting at home that hadn't been driven in a year now. Honestly, I and these three gentlemen are here to try to do what we can. We're elected to do what's best for McCracken County, not what's best for us. And if we didn't propose this, if we didn't try to generate some revenue to help this county to prosper, to help our kids get off of a dump, soccer, to increase the sports-related things, to pave the roads, we got a lot of properties that frankly need to be torn down and make the county look nicer, dilapidated, places where nobody's living. And so we've got a lot of things that we would like to do. They all cost money. This is McCracken County. It's my home. My parents, grandparents, just like maybe yours, or maybe you're a newcomer. I want to be proud of this county, you know, maybe it sounds corny, but when I leave here in 3 years from this job, if I don't re-up, who knows, I want to be able to say, you know, we've got some good done. We've gone a long way. We've got our reserves back up. We've done some projects, and people can, I think, look back and say, you know, I didn't like that tax. That wasn't, I was really against that, but I see that we got some benefit out of it. And my kids, grandkids have a nicer community to live in and enjoy. And so that's the spiel. So we'll start. We got name. We'll start calling folks up, and we'll do what Jeff said.
And so there are 25 on the list.
Okay.
Steve Vassar, when you come up, if you would introduce yourself, and Becky Green, Ms. Green, if you would have a seat here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's got the stopwatch?
Right here.
You got it.
Just
Okay.
started.
All right, good. When I get to 1 minute, will you tell me?
Okay.
Okay. My name is Steve Vassar. I've been selling insurance in McCracken County for 40 years. And I know all about, I've been an insurance instructor at the college, and I've worked for other companies, insurance instructor for 25 years. I went through this tax situation with Carlisle County. Carlisle County went through this, and they passed, a lot simpler than McCracken's proposing. They passed a flat 4% tax on all county residents. Bardwell, Kentucky's got a 9% tax, city tax. Arlington, Kentucky, you know, in big metropolitan cities down there, they got an 8% tax. Now the county's got a 4%. I talked to Greg Terry, the county judge executor. He said, you know, I'm disappointed in this insurance tax we passed. It's only bringing in $158,000. That's all it's bringing in. So I'm disappointed in it. We may have to go back and raise it again. Well, if they do, I'm going to be down there fighting because I've got an insurance office in Arlington. Guys, this is not your fault. This money situation we're in at a county, and you got on point one, it's not your problem. When Danny Orzine was in office, we had an $8 million surplus. Now we're at, this county, guys, are $41 million in debt is what we're in debt for. You know, there's three things people dislike, and if y'all see on their judges for you and Eddie, they dislike lawyers, they dislike insurance agents. I'm one. But what they really dislike, more than all of that put together, they dislike taxes. I do too. We have to have taxes. The city of Paducah raised our tax. We was at 6, they've raised it to 7. They said that 7% would bring in $750,000. That would pay for the aquatic center.
1 minute.
That won't even pay the interest. Won't even pay the interest. 1 minute already? Wow. Okay. Somebody else going to have to help me. Our population has dropped down since 1990, Judge. That's what you want to say. We hadn't had a tax increase. The city's population in 1990 was 27,000. When the census come out, they're projecting it to be about 22,000. McCracken County in 1990 was 63,000. Maybe we're staying up pretty good. I think the people moving out of the city to get to the county because there's no insurance premium tax. Insurance premium tax is the worst tax on the market. Hey guys, do you think your insurance premium will go down or do you think they'll go up? Every time they go up, you pay more in this tax. We cannot control insurance rates. We cannot control storms. We cannot control anything that happens to us. Right now, Kentucky has higher insurance premiums than Missouri, Illinois, Tennessee. I look at all these rates for all these states. We're paying more insurance premiums than any other state. We're paying the highest. So if we put a tax 6.9 on us, we just had another increase. We cannot control this.
That's your time, Mr. Bassett.
My time's up?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to give that to somebody else and let them follow through.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Hey, I want to have a meeting, a prayer meeting. Thanks, Judge, Bill Bartleman, for saying that prayer. I want to have a prayer, and I've got it on my third topic, stewardship. You guys has got the responsibility, and I've got Robert Morris. He's on the back there. Pull him up on YouTube. Living Beyond Blessed. You live beyond blessed. Brother Don Young would like to have been here today, but he's filming. What I'd like to do is have a prayer meeting. Brother Don Young will be the MC. You pick out the four pastors. You pick out the four pastors and let them talk about stewardship because you guys got a big job. You're going to spend our money. And this debt problem is not any of your fault. None of you. Maybe Bill, he's been around a while. He's been here. Maybe it's Bill's fault. Bill should have told us we're that far in debt. Bill, you should have told us.
Got to cut you off, Mr. Bassett. You've got a couple extra minutes.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
I want to give y'all a book.
All right.
Stewardship, living the Christ life, okay?
Thank you.
Everyone I talked to your church.
I'm going to have you out there.
You want to have this
All right. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure everyone's paying attention when I start.
Go ahead.
Ready? My name's Becky Green. I'm an ordinary citizen of McCracken County. I just retired from bedside critical care nursing after 50 years, and I'm 70, guys, okay? And my husband is a disabled American veteran. And guess what, Mr. Jones? We have one bucket. Not all those buckets you talked about, which was a very good analogy, but we have one bucket, and you're drilling some really big holes in it, okay, guys? I do understand that this is not y'all's fault. It's somebody's fault. So somewhere along the line, people have not been good stewards of our money. I don't know who to blame, but I don't think that blame is not to be pressed at this point. I just want you all to be better stewards of our money, okay? Much better. I also don't want to be threatened about things that you're going to take away on the news, like 911 or closing the jail. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't know. Maybe I won't be law-abiding if you'll do all that crap, okay? You know? So let me tell you, that McCracken County has greater than a 17.1 poverty level. The national average is 13.1. That's a lot to me. Being a bedside critical care nurse, I saw that every day. I saw people that couldn't afford health care, that couldn't afford a lot of things. And they come in, and guess what? They don't get well. They die. They die. Also, I had a 1.6% increase on my Social Security. Woohoo! All of this, boy, you've taken a whole lot of that away. Because I do have a home that I own. I do have 2 cars. I do have insurance. So I know you need more money in reserve. I need money to, to live also. So I clip coupons. I, have try to do all my business. So I'm not going across to the mall all the time. I don't shop. I shop at Sam's Club. They have wonderful clothes, by the way. So I'm just worried about what is going on with all the money. And I don't want to be threatened about the loss of services, okay? That is not being respectful to me as a McCracken County resident. Also, I hope that these figures are not going to be changed. I understand you're going to do something, no matter what I say here. Because at first you talked about 8% as a starting point. That scared the PYs out of me, because then talking about, oh, it may have to be 10, 14, whatever. I can't live with that. I'll have to maybe leave. Also, some other organizations have money. I don't think you can probably make some of those organizations give you money, just like the McCracken County Library. They're a taxable district. Now, maybe they'll want to help with some of those scholarships. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But they're a taxable district, and you can't make them give their money to you. And as for that soccer field, let me tell you, I have grandsons that have played on that nasty field for years, and you've paid $15,000 to a company to tell you what you needed, and I understand that. You said at your last meeting that you didn't know about that stuff. Talk to the people in the community. Heck, you could have talked to me. You could have talked to my daughter and son who go and play baseball at other places and pay a lot of money for hotels and a lot of money for food. Talk to the people that voted you in. I didn't vote for all of you, but I did vote for a couple of you, okay? And so talk to the people that you represent and be good stewards, please.
Thank you, ma'am. What's that thing cutting off? Do you have any idea? That's just a little. I don't know why it's just in the one little alarm and it's cutting off. I want it to keep going. Yes, sir.
My name is Matt Wilson. On behalf of McCracken County Farm Bureau, representing 6,074 members in McCracken County, I'm here to present to you a letter that strongly states our position on your proposed insurance premium tax for McCracken County residents. It is our understanding that you're in favor of this tax because there is a lack of operational and maintenance funding. This lack of funding is due to poor financial decisions in budget planning. Lack of planning has resulted in depleted surplus funds. The solution is to tax our insurance premiums. The McCracken County Fiscal Court has proposed an insurance premium tax on several lines of insurance, including home and auto. However, the Fiscal Court does not have exact numbers on how much revenue this tax would generate. It is also a fact that currently the PVA office is still conducting evaluations on properties in the county due to oversights in the past. This will also contribute to additional revenue for the county and needs to be taken into consideration. Currently, there are 78 counties in the state of Kentucky that oppose and don't mandate an insurance premium tax on the local level. This would mean that if the insurance premium tax is levied on the citizens of McCracken County, our county would be in the minority of counties levying this tax. McCracken County Farm Bureau is concerned about the impact a tax increase would have on our members and county residents. We also have doubts that if the tax was approved, we would never be able to eliminate the tax, even if there is no longer a deficit. Past track records show that once a tax is levied, it is never scaled back or eliminated, even though the tax might not be needed anymore. In conclusion, we oppose any insurance premium tax being added to the residents of McCracken County. If the county commissioners do decide to proceed with this tax, we recommend starting with 1% to allow for the fiscal court to gain a better understanding of the specifics of how much revenue will be generated from this tax. We also recommend that the fiscal court look at several other ways to increase revenue. Lastly, we propose that if a tax is passed, that the funding generated from this tax is earmarked and goes directly into the pension fund needs and not the general fund for the county, so that past issues of mismanagement are avoided for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Martin Operly is my name. I've been a resident here for a while. Some of the presentations already dispelled some of the questions I had to ask, but I am interested in, have you considered the people who are going to receive the pensions contributing perhaps a little more to their own pension? I have no idea what they contribute now, but in other programs that I've been in, the consumer's been asked to divvy up a little bit more to it. And the other thing I do fear is the trickle-down cost on the automobile insurance. I think that's going to be too high what you're looking at there. I don't know what it's generating, but I wish you would reconsider. Again, the major insurance companies are going to have that cost to determine everybody out there that is eligible for this tax, and I think we're going to have a really bad trickle-down effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oakley.
Hello.
Sir.
Well, my name is Ron Ward. I've been a resident of McCracken County since 1988, originally from Graves County. My son lived here for a while. He moved, he's got a college degree. He moved to Oklahoma City in 2015 because of no jobs here. I was an insurance agent here for many, many years. I knew Steve in the insurance business. I watched this town go down. I used to have lots of customers on the north side and the south side of Paducah, and I watched it go from nearly every house occupied, nearly every business occupied, to hundreds of vacant commercial buildings, houses, and population drain. In my small circle of friends, probably in the last few years, I know 30 or 40 people who've left Paducah. And then again, you talk about the comparable counties with this tax. So none of the comparable counties are around here. For example, Graves County, which is growing, like since 2015, over 1,150 new jobs, which you're competing with now. You're competing with Callaway County, to some extent Marshall County, Graves County for jobs. Graves County has no insurance premium tax. Graves County has no net profits tax, which y'all have. Graves County has lower property taxes, lower school taxes. Everything, every tax here goes up every year other than the property tax. I understand that's your situation. But you're competing with all these counties now. And, I mean, you're talking about attracting industry. Well, I mean, parks are good. We need parks. We need good highways. But then that's not going to attract that many newcomers. We need lower taxes, or steady taxes. Another elephant in the room is our exorbitant electric rates. Paducah Power, which I've talked to Eddie about this, among the highest in the state of Kentucky. They're over $500 million in debt. You've got Jackson Purchase, which is going up some. Probably go up some more because they're building a $25 billion building out there past the mall. I mean, everything you do is just making it harder for businesses to come here. You had two possibilities within the last year at that mega rail site, $1 billion investments. Both of them didn't come here because of electric rates. One of them went to little old Brandenburg, Kentucky, a town of 3,000 people. And what is my time now? You have my time? How much time?
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, sir. Well,
I want to thank all of you all for letting us have the opportunity to speak to you first off. I want to thank Mr. Vassar also for his point that he made out about the insurance premiums and how high they are in the area. I did not realize that, but I've emailed this particular statement to you guys, so all four of you have got it in your email, and I'm going to just kind of hit some high points here. One of the things or several of the things are that this is not going to help us with uninsured drivers, not by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to have people that are going to try to avoid paying this anyway, even if they have to use mom's address in Graves County or whatever in order to get around it. On top of that, with these high insurance premiums we already have in the state of Kentucky, consider the fact that we're paying people to do economic development for us now. And it's tough in this area. It's not easy. If the insurance premiums for a prospective business are already high and we're throwing another tax on top of that, that's not going to help us, not by any stretch of the imagination. And when Mr. Doolittle does an interview with WPSD, and this happened in August of last year, and part of the quote is, he states that there is no minimum or no maximum limit on this tax. That is not going to help you sell economic development in McCracken County, not by any stretch of the imagination. The best paying jobs that we're going to be able to get in this area are probably going to have high insurance premiums. Heavy industry, construction, and things of that nature. We do not need more fast food or call center jobs in McCracken County. We need something that's going to produce something. It's going to cost money to do it. Right now, the very best argument you have for economic development, low taxes. And if you look at the tax rates around the state and the places that do and do not have this particular tax, you're going to find out that we're sitting in a pretty good spot. We can make up the difference if we can get to economic development and get somebody in here that's actually going to hire somebody. Got another question for you. What happens when the economy turns sour? It will happen. You can bet on it. What happened to the receipts for the occupational tax when the last recession hit? Can you answer that? It probably hit the skids because that 1% occupational tax, there was what, 10, 15, maybe 17% of the people that were not paying that anymore. So that part of your revenue stream is going to go down. When the economy turns down, what's going to be one of the first things a homeowner is going to look at to get rid of? Anything you can. And insurance is one of those things that you can fudge on. Personally, I have earthquake insurance on my...
Wrap it up, that's your time, sir.
Personally, I have insurance on my house, and I include earthquake. That's expensive. I can save $900 a year, just like that, by dropping the earthquake. And that hurts your tax base. It puts it at risk. Thank you very much.
Sir.
Very good.
Jeff Newton, it's clear that you need money. It's clear that you're going to raise taxes to get the money. You stated that there are 3 ways in which you can raise money. What are the other 2 ways, 2 options? How much money do we exactly need? Is it $3 million, $3.5 million? Is that per year? Is that over 3 years? What exactly is the money going to be used on? How much of this money is going to be put away for incentive money, gift money to bring business here? And what about the future pension balloon that we talked about earlier? How much money is going to be put towards that? You stated that past fiscal courts made long-term commitments without a funding plan. What are those current commitments that we have, and when do they end? What are each of those commitments? What is the return on investment for the past incentives? So did we get anything for what we've done in the past, or how do we know we're going to get something for what we're going to do in the future? From 2011 to 2018, you stated we went from $8.6 million to $767,000 in reserves. What was the $7,833,000 spent on? $1 million went to the jail for locks, I understand that. Where'd the rest of it go? Trying to do my research, looking at the 2014 and 15 financial statements and 2015 and 2016 fiscal year budget online, they won't download. It says they were created on March 1st of 2019. I can't look at it. So what happened in the past? And with the insurance tax, you said with this tax, provide services that need to be provided. What services, new services or additional services, are you talking about providing with this new tax? Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
My name is Mary King. I'm a registered nurse here in McCracken County. I'm a homeowner here in McCracken County. I'm not well prepared for this meeting because it was rather sudden from my standpoint. I went through the flood in 2011. My husband and I lost everything we had. We sunk deeply into debt in order to rebuild our home. I lost my husband 2 years later. So I have all that debt. I know you don't care, but I am already strapped as far as I can be strapped. There are a lot of people in McCracken County who are already retired. They have no hope of an increase in their income. I have no idea where they will be able to get additional monies to pay this extra tax. And I feel like it's extremely unfair to them, who many times are already in poor health or who don't have anybody that can help them. So what are they going to do? They're going to go without food. They're going to go without their medicine. They're going to go without medical care in order to take and pay a tax that has newly been imposed on them. Plus, from my standpoint, since I am required by law to have vehicle insurance, I feel like it's very unfair to tax me on that or anybody else in the community. There are other ways to generate money. You have a lot of very smart people in McCracken County. Perhaps sometimes we need to have some brainstorming sessions to come up with ideas of how to generate income to help take care of some of these issues and financial difficulties. Because some of us have learned over the last few years, there are ways to take and still pay your bills, still keep things going. As for the pension fund, I'm very happy that they have a good pension fund. I too would like to have a 100% pension fund, but not everybody can. So I think everything needs to be, I think we all need to step back a moment, put everything out on the table, and start really looking at what the answers are, not just arbitrarily throw another new tax. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. My name's Brad Faulkner. Been a resident in McCracken County for 45 years. Retired from USAC. Used to be Carbide years ago. But so I'm not going to get up here and tell you guys I don't think you ought to pass that tax. So don't throwing eggs at it. But I would like to say some things about where we're at right now and some possible solutions. Anybody that's been online and new tech type of thinking understand crowdsourcing. Well, in the past, I understand you guys didn't pass this $16 million bond or plus debt to service, what is it, Teletech, Genova, or MSU coming here, or all these different issues. But I would implore you to find a way to where it's easy for our community to look at these numbers. I'm not talking about just the big numbers where you can look at and say, well, these numbers don't add up and they don't jive. Because right now, these pension numbers haven't jived for a long time. And it's gone on and on and on. $45 billion on the state level, and you talked about the state contributing, they're scrambling just to try to keep the teachers and whoever's on that fund, police or county or whatever. Well, we need to know the numbers to make good decisions and to get a crowdsourcing solution. We need to have these numbers out, and the guy mentioned he gets online, he can't get the numbers. Yeah. You just can't take the big numbers that's already been sun water under the bridge. What are you going to do with all this bond debt? You think your bond rating is going to be bad now? Wait till the next economic tsunami hits, and these bond ratings are going to the literal skids. And you're going to have a situation where they're going to go down so far, all it's going to be able to afford it is the bankers could self-fund themselves, and the big players come in here and they're going to buy everything out, and you're going to be sitting here with absolutely no recourse and determining, we don't have much on the power bills now, but Paducah buyers bad business decisions on, who they're going to get power from. And so at this point, we need better information. So if the jail's running $2 to $3 million a year on a community this size, that's a load. I'm just going by what Eddie had put out in some of his communiques. I think Facebook, I don't do social network, maybe that's. But we need to know how much
we're generating from the county on the people we're housing in there, and how much this regional jail is a load on our taxes just to keep it going. Is the state contributing to that? Is the other counties? Are we getting enough money to support the housing of these prisoners and all the costs that's involved? I don't know. It's a private information, but it's just a public venue about pensions. I know some of these pensions are like, I've seen some of the numbers on it, they're outrageous. I worked at USAC 22 years or whatever. It doesn't even compare. That's private enterprise, and though people consider it a government, but it was operated by private enterprise for the DOE. And those pensions aren't anywhere comparable to some of the pensions that's coming out, that I'm seeing it coming out of the state, especially people that's been in the legislature for whatever, and then they come back and serve on a committee or this and that, and they get their time in, and they get six-figure income on a pension. Some of that's got to stop, because at some point we're going to have to ask the question to these people that are getting pensions or all these other people that are on this public dole. Do you want 50% of something, or do you want 100% of nothing? Because the numbers are not jiving, and they're not going to jive. But based on what I just said here, we need to know the numbers in a more of a drilled down fashion where people can look at it and some of the business people can come about. And I'm saying attorneys can't do business decisions, or lawyers or whatever. Jeff's only actual business owner that I know that's on this. But we need more people's input on this, especially the one that are paying the taxes. Thank you.
Great.
Well, my name is Charles Hamilton. I'm a disabled Vietnam vet, and I think I've paid for my part, but what increase I've gotten with all that you all got going on here now is going to double. My property in McCracken County, the taxes triple because of the expansion or whatever the case may be. I wish I could get someone to buy my house for a fourth of what I'm paying taxes for on it. And the maintenance, my road used to be dug out. It hasn't been dug out in 15 years. What I would like, if it's gotten in this bad a shape, Mr. Leeper, those previous commissioners should be able to come forward and maybe give an explanation why they oversaw, misread or misunderstood. And I think Mr. Parker was pretty much into the county of knowing some things. So those people that knew, why shouldn't they come forward? Why shouldn't you all ask them, well, how did we get where we are? You know, now I had a professor out to the school. He said, you know, Mr. Vester talked about lawyers. Well, they said, well, politicians, I think, has almost gotten to that level. Once you get into politics, the greatest guy in the world is good until they get into politics. But I'm just hoping those figures that we got, why can't you be more transparent? You guys are professing to be the savior of the county, but there's no evidence being showed how you got to this particular. Like I said, you can't pull it down online, you can't see it, but then the community is just to accept. We sat around the table and then this is what we come up with. But I'd like to get a better understanding of casualty insurance, automobile insurance, those things added together, 4%, 4.9, 6.9. If I got 3 of those policies, what did that really total up to that I might increase on all of those policies that I have? Sure. So then where do we go? I mean, you all are telling us we're going to have to accept whatever you all decide to do, but we have no recourse. And so you're going to reduce my income as a disabled vet and put a load on me with no explanation on why I have to carry this load. And so somewhere along the line, I would just like to see a little more transparency. And then Mr. Leeper is still around. If he was the judge before you, he didn't see this, somebody needs to come forward and explain why. I think one of the other commissioners still alive and around. How do those guys be so naive and not knowing, but you guys come along in a short period of time and discover all of this damage? somewhere along the line, somebody's not being honest. And so I think the community deserves a better explanation than just sitting around the table saying, this is what we got. Why can't you show us what you got?
Thanks, sir.
Well, I'll start by saying I certainly don't envy you men's position. Michael Hunt, sorry. I certainly don't envy your position here. Very touchy, and and being this far down on the list, most of the issues that I had in mind have already been addressed. But it seems like that our first option always is more taxes, which is about the only option I'm sure you have of raising extra income. But it does seem like if there could be more industry brought into the area some way. I'm on Social Security myself. My Social Security increased about 1.6% last year. Wouldn't quite, people on fixed income is not going to even be able to pay the increase on the insurance. I'm having to actually work on the side to make ends meet right now. And I also was concerned about what we spent all those millions of dollars on and why weren't they addressed at that point in time. And another point is that taxes never go away. You know, they never seem to decrease or in some way be voted out, which brings me to the point I would like to make is seems like this might be a topic for a public referendum where this would be voted on by the public. I don't know that this would be possible. Of course, we know where it would go. And but I also, there's a couple of one other point, especially someone made about auto insurance is already required by law. Here we are having another tax put on something that we have to have already. And I do have to pay liability tax on my business. I don't know if that's covered or not. There was one item in there that said there was going to be a certain amount placed on all other risks. And I don't know that that particular item's been addressed. I would like to know what all other risks include. But I just have a real problem with more taxes on things that we have to start with, insurance. And it seems to me like we should be focusing more on bringing more industry, more business into the area, and instead of making it a little harder on we who have grown up here. I've lived my whole life here, born and raised here in Paducah, and sure wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But I would like to see us find some other means of revenue besides just raising taxes. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
My name is Randy Wiersma. Guys, I'm not here to beat you up. And I also realize that most of you have not run a business before, but you're going to have to change your outlook to a business outlook. Right now, as far as I can tell, number one, you don't have any idea how much money you need. Number two, you don't have any idea how much money you're going to have. According to news release, which I believe about maybe a half of that, Bill Dunn says he's generated $800,000 for the county. According to the news release, there was an $890,000 shortfall, according to the news. Now, that's all I'm telling you. That's what we've got to go by. You know, it's almost taken care of itself, according to what has been reported. If you've got better figures, we'd like to see them. I'd like to see them. The thing that puzzles me as much as anything is, okay, we started out with an 8%, which came out of the air. And then we're going to change it to a 4.9. We're going to change it to a 6.9. But we have absolutely no knowledge of how much money that is. So we're pulling stuff out of there. And I think one gentleman already said, let's start at 1%. Let's get a baseline. Let's get all the rest of our ducks in a row, and then see what we need and go from there. Yes. If you want more taxes, go out to the inspection and building code department, get that straightened up, and businesses will come into this county. I promise you, we've got a lot to offer in this county, but it's not going to happen in the building codes atmosphere that we have in this county, whether it be city, whether it be county. It's not going to happen. Quit trying to hit a home run and start going for base hits. We don't have to have 300 employees businesses. We need 20 employee businesses scattered all over this county. That will get your tax revenue back in shape. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ray.
Marilyn Gross. Marilyn.
I got you. I'm Scott Young. I've been selling commercial insurance in McCracken County for 30 years. Don Young's my father. No, I'm not eloquent. And very little prepared because I came at the last minute. I have a unique perspective in the insurance business because I don't sell house and car insurance. All I sell is large commercial. My average size account is over $1 million in premium. And I have some of those in McCracken County. They're looking at roughly between $120,000 and $150,000 premium tax. The conversations I'm having with those gentlemen and ladies is not about the tax rates and what's fair and is work comp included, and I saw that it's not. That was one of my questions. The conversations that we're having together are, what are we going to do? We're going to domicile in Tennessee at one of our other sites. We're moving across the river and taking 100 jobs with us. And I just want you to consider the back end ramifications. I sense it's a foregone conclusion. I might get stoned. And I get where you're coming from. You got to create revenue. But I just want you to consider the back end ramifications of that decision. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
My name's Lewis Hayden. I'm just an old country boy. Born and raised in Paducah all my life. Finally got to the age where I could retire. And now I'm looking at my taxes. I'm looking at school taxes. I'm looking at taxes for this, taxes for that. I'm on Social Security straight. Just like the lady said, I just got one bucket. I'm already too old to try to get another job. And I know you guys sitting right here are not doing this for nothing. I think, Judge Clymer, you said that you were retired, but you're not doing this for nothing. You're drawing pay. I need an opportunity to have more, but I'm old. There's not anything that anyone would want to hire me to do because of my health. But guys, whenever you're paying and you're paying and you're paying, what are you going to have to leave off so that you can make ends meet at the end of the month so that you'll have nothing to have to go into nothing. When you have nothing, you have nothing. When you spend more than what you got, you have nothing. You go in a hole. Guys, look at what's going on. Are we spending more than what we got? So now we got to raise taxes on people that can't afford to pay the taxes? Or is that what we're doing? Is that where we want to go? Is that what we want McCracken County to be labeled at? Don't go to McCracken County. They've got taxes, big taxes. You can't afford to retire there. Now, if you're young and you got another job, you might be able to afford some of that. School taxes is totally unreal. Taxes on your light bill, your phone bill, your water bill, all school taxes. Unreal. And now we're getting taxes on our insurance that we have to have unless something happens and then you go back to zero again. Guys, look at this. Look at old people. Look at the people that's been here that have worked and paid taxes for 50 some odd years. Kind of have a little bit of concern about them. Concern about the older people. You want us to leave? That's what's going to happen. The old people's going to have to move McCracken County because we can't pay the taxes. Thank you.
Excellent.
I'm Larry Hutchison, and everybody's been making comments. I've got some questions. One is about tracking and collection. A lot of people buy their automobile insurance online and send the money out of state. My life insurance is in an out-of-state company, and I pay them direct. How are you going to keep up with where that money's going, and how do you collect it? Second question is, you said earlier that the county was limited to a 4% increase. Well, if you reassess all the property and the money starts coming in from that, and then the money starts coming in from this insurance, and you end up with more than a 4% raise, what do you have to do with that excess money? And the third question is, what's to keep me from going to Benton and getting the post office box and using that address for my life insurance and my automobile insurance?
That's right. You can do it.
That's it.
Hi. My name's Cindy Mulvaney. I moved here 2.5 years ago from Oregon. I love it here. I think it's beautiful, and I'm very happy. But, sir, Mr. Judge Clymer, you lost me when you were giving your spiel, because you talked about the necessity of raising the taxes so that you could turn right around and spend it on various things to draw people in. I'm looking at drainage here during floods. You know, that's like the city wants to build an aquatic center, but during a flood, people can swim in the gutters. It's bad. We have things that have to be done. And I would rather, before we jump into spending on fluff, that we deal with the crisis at home, in town, where we live out in the county. Is there a possibility of communicating with other counties that are successful, that have implemented plans that generate the income, that do not involve taxes? Is there a possibility of contacting, applying for grants? It's federal grants that to help counties, cities, whatever. There are avenues that can be pursued. But my thing is, I'm a widow on Social Security. If I want something, I tighten my belt until I can pay for it in cash. Right. And that's what we have to do in government also. And it's just unfortunate that this little board here of these little bullets, it's not giving me enough information for me to make an educated decision. So I respectfully decline this, reject this, until you can offer me something better, because I want to stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Clay Brown. I'm a McCracken County citizen and taxpayer, unfortunately. And I don't know, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. I almost didn't even come down here, but I feel like my word needs to be known. For the first thing, who was actually responsible for all these PVA assessments? Was it just that one woman, or was there other people involved? The other thing is, I'm with a lot of these people here. I think you need to start out low, see what it generates, go from there, and then maybe do something higher if it's not doing right. There's a lot of people you could probably get a hold of and get input on it. I don't know, it seemed like there'd be more things done over at the jail on income, all the other inmates or other people that's breaking the law coming in from out of state, out of town, wherever. Seemed like something could be done along those lines. Have you resolved and looked out every avenue is my question, because I don't think you have. And especially them saying there's no numbers online, where we got to go from? We need something. And y'all got a hard job, and I wouldn't want it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is D. Jean Grisella, and I have been a Southside homeowner since the fall of 2015. I grew up in Paducah, although I was not born in Kentucky, but I grew up here, and our family moved north when I was around 12 for economic opportunity. First thing I want to do is apologize to my seatmates because I was out working on my old house yesterday that's in the city, and I was taking care of some siding issues, and I think I stepped in cat poo. So I think it's on these shoes because I too got ready to come down here in a very big hurry. I want to offer a perspective of someone who's been out of the community and has come back many years later when she never thought she would ever come and live in Paducah again. Mostly because all of our old folks are gone. We're the old folks now. I do feel that they need to increase incentives to attract new residents, because I can say that compared to where I lived in Indiana and in Colorado, my insurance on my home in Paducah is significantly higher. Also, the reason I was out working on my own house yesterday is because you literally cannot pay anyone to do anything for you as a homeowner here. It is very difficult to get someone to come, even give you an estimate, much less follow through on the estimate. Also, I want to address the inspections and the building codes and things, because when you're 12 and you leave town, you don't know about insurance and building codes and electricity rates and all that stuff. So the Paducah Power System situation was news to my ears when I came here, but from my perspective, it's not that bad because it's comparable to what I experienced in other areas. But for this area, it is significant because it's a huge increase for those people. But I lost my train of thought. I need a cue card. But I think that, what I was saying, because I had an electrical contractor come to my home, which I paid $52,000 for in 2015, and they gave me a $16,000 estimate to bring my house up to code. I said, this is a $5,200 or $52,000 house. There's no way I'm spending $16,000, especially when there's not any hazards or safety issues. It's a matter of, where the outlets are placed and things like that. It's a very old house, but I think that isn't something that, if I had known then what I know now, very likely I might not have moved back to Paducah, or I would have chosen the county, because I guess some of those things are not as strict in the county. But anyway, I'm all in favor of law and order and safety codes and things like that, but I think that you have to temper those decisions and how you exercise your response to those issues based on practicality and what is really the effect that you're going to get out of it. When you talk about the jail, I don't know what other places spend for jails, generally, but $3 million plus sounds exorbitant for an area, a community of this size. And I think that that's where I say the examination of what laws are you enforcing and who are you incarcerating and what is the threat of those people, because I would suspect that a great deal of them are in there for illicit drug use. And I think that as a nation, as a community, everything, we need to look at those issues, because illicit drug use and substance abuse is a symptom of a problem. It is not actually the problem, although I do recognize that a lot of problems are resulting from that, but it's because no one is addressing the underlying real problem, which is lack of economic opportunity and hope and faith that you can get your piece of the American dream. There's many.
We have to stop you. You
Okay.
run over.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name's Gene Holland, and all I've got's a bunch of questions. I've got a sheet here that shows 38 counties that are presently, what I can get, or charging an insurance tax. 8.1% was brought up earlier tonight, or today. Out of these 38 counties, there's 7 with that high a rate, and there's 31 below that. Most of them are 4 to 5%. I'd also like to ask what all risk is on this sheet. 4.9%. What's all risk insurance? What kind of insurance is that? Does that apply? And what is a total? Does anybody have the figures on the total amount of insurance paid on the subject insurance and how much that would bring into this county? If you can, I'd like to know where you got it, because I have looked, what little knowledge I have of a computer, I've looked all over it, and I can't get any kind of total. Even call the insurance commission, and they either won't give it to you or they don't know. And are the insurance companies going to charge a percentage to collect these fees?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Vassar, you continually are speaking out. I would appreciate it if you did. Thank you.
And what percentage are they going to charge? They're going to charge 1%? They're going to charge 2%? That's just a question. The jail. What does it cost to house a prisoner in that jail per day? And what does the county receive for state prisoners, I guess they're state, to keep them in this jail? And as of yesterday, according to the computer, there were 551 inmates in this jail. Now, how in the world has McCracken County come up with a small prison to maintain? It's not feasible to me. I ran a business for nearly 40 years, and it just, there's things that don't make any good sense to me. And I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I watched on the news the other night where there's 9 prisoners that have got training in electrical to be put out, you know, and I've got no problem with that, but it looks like to me, if you can't afford an education, maybe you ought to go to jail. And I don't, you know, I paid my kids' way through college, and I don't feel like paying other people's way through college. And it's probably a good thing. They'll probably go out into society, they'll get a job, and they'll pay taxes. But those are just a few questions that I'd like an answer to.
All right. Thanks, sir. We'll try to address all these things at the end.
Sir, we've had 4 people relinquish their time, and someone that arrived late would like to be added to the list.
I'll take that time.
Oh, well, I'm sure it's already claimed. Please make sure you.
You sure? Because I got a lot of apologizing to do. My name's Matt Baker, and 43 years old. I'm part of that problem. I want to tell you as a community, I'm sorry for my actions as well as my lack of actions. But every time I did something wrong, I went right over there and I paid for it. I did every bit of my time. And by the grace of God, I hold in my hand a full governor's pardon. And with that being said, I'm offering a way to fix all this not raise any taxes, help our community, help the opioid epidemic, help cancer patients, help ourselves like we used to when we knew our neighbors, when everybody helped each other. Like she said, she can't find anybody to help out. You stick around. We'll see what you need done. Ever since USEC, my grandfather, Charlie Ray Baker, my father, Rodney Baker, helped build all that. And half of them people that sit over there are just mad. They're mad because when they come out making minimum wage, all these taxes, and they're not going to get nowhere, so they're going to go out and hustle and try to get it back the wrong way. My apologies for that. But I've looked it up. And if we pass medicinal marijuana as a town, we can write the law. We don't have to wait for Frankfurt and all the crooks, this, that, and the other. And I'm offering, as my grandfather puts it, I wasted the best 20 years of my life. But as I told my grandfather, God has a plan for something, and that was educate me. And I'm here to tell you, I will go nonprofit, and I will give every bit of that money back to Paducah as a whole for the pension fund, for all the people that I let down along the way. I'm not saying legalize it for everybody. I'm just saying medicinal, PTSD, Vietnam vets, cancer patients, all that. We're not going to fix this problem with raising more taxes. By doing that, I can provide 50 to 100 sustainable jobs. And I will buy a drug dog each year for each officer. So when they do a routine stop, that dog can go around that car. And if he hits on anything, it's probable cause. And we can get the heroin, the meth, all these things. I'm sorry. But I'm trying to help. These ladies at the Merriman house, I don't care if it's a box blade and gravel, they shouldn't have to walk through a ditch. They've already been through enough. And then they're going to carry their kids and everything. Prices keep raising, yes. But it ain't what it's not worth it. Nothing out there that we buy right now is worth the price tag that's put on it. So it can even bring back the railroad. We can send it off in an armored car. We have hemp farmers that are sitting on thousands of pounds of hemp that can be integrated with it so the potency won't be as high. I'm offering to fix that in 5 years without raising any of these taxes. All I need is a vote for medicinal marijuana, and one grower per post is all that the state will allow, and I'm offering nonprofit to give it all back.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, I'm John Wires. Hello, Judge.
John.
I spent 30-plus years with the Department of Juvenile Justice. During the course of those years, I watched the county, McCracken County, have a juvenile justice system. McCracken Regional Juvenile Detention was built. You all currently at McCracken County at that time had a $2.1 million budget for the juvenile office that was absorbed back into the county when the state picked up the Regional Juvenile Detention Center. I understand the cost that's associated with the jail. $3 million plus seems very feasible. During my tenure, we had a $13.1 million budget for 9 different facilities. I know there's an exorbitant cost involved with this. I also know Phil Hazel, who had worked with probation and parole, ended up becoming the jailer down in Callaway County, and he made the jail fiscally responsible and actually turned a profit for the first time. Obviously, we are not Callaway County. We house many more inmates. With that said, I don't want to throw rocks at the past administrations. We did live through the Great Recession. I watched staff members being thankful that they had health insurance. I heard several people talk about 6-figure pensions. I promise you, nobody that worked for the state that I'm aware of made anywhere near that. I know what we pay the juvenile folks over at McCracken, and they are not going to be bringing in any kind of money like that. But what I would ask is, with the Great Recession came a lot of hits. The first thing that happens with your facilities is maintenance takes a large hit. I understand that. I know the tax revenue needs to be built back up to take care of maintenance needs. But I would also ask, if this tax is implemented, that there is a deadline for this tax. Once the quota is met, whatever is determined by the board, that at that point the tax is rescinded. I also ask that transparency be critical in every aspect of this. Obviously, there's a lot of folks here that are deeply involved with the system, as well as the taxpayers. I don't want to pay an extra penny if I don't have to, but I also understand that I do live in this county. I'm a second-generation individual, went to Heath. My dad went to Heath. Very proud of this community. But I would ask, once again, that once the fiscal responsibility is met, the needs are met, the pension becomes solvent on your all's end, that this tax is rescinded at this time and not rolled back in like so many other taxes into some future endeavor. The last thing I would ask for is no new projects. If we're having to raise taxes, let's not go out and buy a new car when we don't pay for our utilities or our rent. And that's what we would be doing if we ended up picking up new projects that aren't necessary at this point in time. Let's take care of our needs, whether it's the 911 system, flood issues, whatever the need is. Let's use this money appropriately and then rescind it when it's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Is that the end of the list? That's the end of our list. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak that hadn't? That's it. Okay. We didn't really talk about how you want to just individually go about this thing.
I'll go first and try to respond to some of the issues that were raised. Number one, somebody mentioned the revenue in Carlisle County. Carlisle County has just put the tax on, and they need the revenue over a full year to find out what their total revenue is going to be. So the few months they've been collecting the tax, that's not a full year's, they don't know how much it's going to be until they get through a full year. And we're not responsible for the insurance rates that are charged in McCracken County. We don't set the insurance rates, the insurance companies do. And we have no response to that. So I think there ought to be the same kind of turnout, same kind of communication with insurance companies to reduce their rates because they're awful high. And they do charge a fee for collecting the tax. They don't have to, it's not mandatory, so we can urge the insurance companies not to collect that fee, but they will, we know that. On House Bill 44, which limits tax rates, we can only raise 4% more in our property tax revenue from one year to the next. And we're really not going to get a lot of benefit dollar-wise out of the reassessments that were done and the adding of the omitted property, because when all of that is added into the tax base, the tax rate will go down. And that's one reason why the tax rate's gone down over the years, is because we've kept it at, we haven't even taken the county's not even taken the 4% benefit over the last 20 or 30 years, so the tax rate has gone down. And the more property that's added to the tax rolls, the assessments, the tax rate will go down, so we can't take any advantage of that. People talked about the pensions. We have no control over the pensions. We cannot set a pension rate. We can't go and tell employees, well, instead of paying 10% into the pension system, you've got to pay an extra $20, and we have no control over that. The state sets that totally. And in another life, I was a newspaper reporter and covered the legislature, and I saw the legislature over the last 20 years did not properly fund the pension system. And there are always warnings about that, but nobody really heeded the warnings until the last few years when the pension system was so broke and got down that it's only about 20% funded. So again, it doesn't do any good to place blame because we got to deal with it now. So we have to pay what the state pension board says we need to pay to keep the system solvent, so our employees have the insurance rates. We talk about the depleted fund that we had at $8 million at one point. It's down to considerably less than that. The fiscal courts back in about I'm not sure what year it was, but about 10 years ago started bonding projects. And the cost of paying those bonds is about $1 million a year. So it doesn't take too many years to deplete the reserve that was had. They had no revenue raised to pay those bonds, but the bond obligation is about $1 million a year, and that's one reason why the rate has gone down. I guess we can argue whether or not the projects were good or not. They funded the Murray State Building. Was that a good investment? You know, at the time, I don't think anybody would have stood up and objected to building a Murray campus here. If we look back on whether or not that's been a success for the community and what it's added to the community, we might question it. But we have that obligation now, and it's a good asset, at least on the community's list. They spent money. They issued bonds for the Teletech building. That probably didn't create the type of jobs we would like to have, but at least it created jobs for 200 to 300 people. We had the Genova project until they closed. It provided jobs for 100 people. That was funded with bonds. Can we look back and say whether that was a good or a bad investment? You know, we can probably question that, but the investment was made to create jobs at the time. Most of those bonds expire in 2033, 2032, and 2033 is when most of those bond issues expire. So we have that obligation. A couple of them expire in the next 2 or 3 years, but most of them don't expire for a longer period of time. In the jail, we are extremely concerned about jail costs. It costs about $8 million a year to run the jail. We get $5 million a year in revenue from various sources, including the state paying for inmates in here. It's something we're all concerned about. It's something we really need to put on a microscope to really analyze the spending at the jail. Our current jailer is doing an excellent job of bringing it back to what it needs to be after a few years of some problems that existed over there. So we're always taking a look at that to try to find ways to raise more money or save money, but it's very difficult because the staffing is the same whether you have 500 prisoners or 400 prisoners. The staffing has to be the same. The only thing we can do is maybe have more state inmates in there for which we get paid $31 to $32 a day to house state inmates. A big expense we have in the jail that's always concerned me is medical expenses. We spend about $800,000 a year on direct medical expenses, and the reason for that is if somebody is arrested and put in jail, they no longer get Medicaid benefits, their private insurance benefits no longer cover, so we have to cover those jail expenses. I volunteered to be on a committee with the National Association of Counties, and the number one priority of the committee I'm on is to take care of that, to remove that prohibition at the federal level that those inmates cannot get those benefits. So we're working hard on that. Other issues, and I'm sure others have comments. The PVA issue is something that there's a big concern. We have no oversight over the Property Valuation Administrator's Office. It is an elected position, and the oversight comes from the State Revenue Cabinet in Frankfurt. And my experience as a county commissioner, my experience as a newspaper reporter, I never felt that the Revenue Cabinet did a good job of overseeing the work that was done by the PVA. I mean, again, I don't want to just generalize everybody, but they did more protecting the PVAs than what I think they did providing proper oversight. Hopefully some of that's changing now. I think what happened here has raised some red flags across the state that people are taking a close look at that. Somebody talked about getting grants to help pay for stuff. We just hired a grant administrator to help us find grants to help us pay for some of the things that we do. Another issue is whether or not we have estimates on how much money it will raise. It's difficult to estimate. I have done some digging over the last few days and over the last week really, and have tried to estimate how much money that the insurance tax would bring in. I could make a rough estimate, and I'll share it with the commissioners later on. We can debate or whether it's accurate or inaccurate, but I found a way to estimate how much would come in from the auto insurance and the home insurance as a rough estimate. And the bottom line is, as the judge said, we need about $3 million from the insurance tax to help fund government. We really need about $4 million, and I think we have $1 million that we can have savings and stuff from other sources. So we need about $3 million coming in my view, from the insurance tax to meet the needs. And as much as we would like to say, well, you know, we're going to put it on for 5 years and eliminate it, we all know that would never happen, would never be eliminated, because they have to pay ongoing costs. Again, the pension system is the big thing. If we didn't have the pension responsibility, we could probably somehow ease our way through this. But the pension responsibility, another 2 or 3 years, it's going to go up by more than $1 million. And I could go on, but I'll relinquish to others. I don't want to comment on the jail.
Let's go.
I'll go. You
go.
Well, I want Mr. Holland to come back up. I want to answer his question because I think that'll answer a lot of the questions people out here have, if we can. Gene, you come back and ask some questions. While he's coming up, you know, one of the big things is it's not, even if we raise $3 million, you need to understand it. Just wipe that board clean. The $3 million is only a Band-Aid. With pension costs, in 5 years, you're going to be at a $3 million mark. So we've got to figure a way to cut our costs. We've got to figure out a way to do savings, and that's the only way. Now, last year we cut 5% across the board. This year we plan to cut another 5% or more across the board. I know the judge said in the last 10 years we've cut back 25 employees in the county. Probably more than that, because if you take what was the majority we've hired went to the sheriff's department or jail. So if you take those out, we're probably quite a bit more than 25 that we've slowly gotten rid of. So have we been 100% fiscally responsible in the last year? I think we have. I think we've done everything. We were handed this. It's a mess. We've done everything we can to start to turn it around. But whether we like it or not, in the next 4 to 5 years, the state pension is going to collect $3 million above and beyond what we have or what we pay in county taxes. We have to have that extra $3 million, or it's going to come out of the budget. And that's where the cuts into 911, the sheriff's department. I mean, those are the things that are next on the list. If we don't act now and be responsible. Will you ask your questions? No, you'll address my time to you.
For what?
What were your questions again?
I left my notes back here.
Well, that's not going to do it. Did you write them down? I couldn't write fast enough to.
I asked what an inmate from McCracken County costs per day.
31.
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. There's your note.
So I think the jailer would tell you that an inmate costs us about $40 a day, but when we farm that bed out to the state inmate, we get about $32 a day.
So we're losing $8 a day on a state inmate.
Yes, in essence. I think there's some cost savings when you get the numbers right, but I don't think any of us would open a jail for business based on those numbers.
Okay, back to the, I've got this chart. These are the counties that charge insurance tax. And the statewide average, according to this sheet, is 5.86%. That's Jefferson and Louisville at 5%. Fayette and Lexington's 5%. And I can't understand why McCracken County would be 7%, for one thing. And all the other risk, I don't know what that means. You got casualty, auto, inland marine, health, none, life, and all other risk.
I think it means all other risk. I mean, I think.
Any policy that you pay for an insurance?
I think that's.
Anything but health.
Yeah, health insurance, I understand that's a health. And you've got, according to the computer, McCracken County's got 65,385 people, population. That's 2017. That's as far as I could get. Back to the insurance companies. Are they going to charge to collect this tax? Yes, they will. So that's going to be another, don't know, on top of the fee that y'all come up with.
I think you also asked about the electric class.
Yeah.
I noticed the jailer's here, so he's going to be able to answer some of your questions.
Well, you know, I got no problem with that. But
Well, and I think it's paid for by the commissary. Is it paid for by the commissary fund?
Nothing comes out of tax dollars.
Yeah, so that's, so the inmates that are in there, when they buy something out of the canteen, or they buy it basically from the business of selling inmates things such as time.
they're going to the grocery.
Right.
Okay. All right.
It's not your tax dollars paying for it. Let me say that.
But another tax, me being in business, I had an inventory tax every year. You know, that's, and if you're in business, you can't run out of something at the end of the year. And the double-sided sword here was January 1, the people that I bought from, guess what they'd do? They'd go up 6, 8, 10%. So you had to buy it to have it in inventory to pay tax on. That's just another tax that most people don't have, but you take $30,000, that's 1% of that. It's pretty good. Not a lot, but it is a chunk of change. And back to, y'all have got no idea how much revenue this is going to bring in.
We do.
And I couldn't find that. And like somebody else said, you've got, I can go to Tennessee and buy my insurance. Well, are they gonna collect this tax and send it to the state of Kentucky? And because I know I used to have some insurance in Tennessee, and that's about what I had to say earlier.
The Kentucky Department of Insurance monitors that. Anybody who sells insurance in Kentucky has to be licensed by the state of Kentucky, so the state insurance, Department of Insurance monitors that. I also want to point out, too, that I think the number of counties has increased to 44 counties now, I believe, have
42.
42 insurance, but there's 480 cities have the tax in Kentucky, too.
We don't live in the city.
Page, and I'm not saying because others have it, we need it.
But we don't live in the city.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not saying because they have it, we need it, but I mean, it's a common practice throughout the state. 42 counties and about 480.
38.
The city of Paducah estimates that 1% in the Paducah generates about $750,000. I think you told me earlier. We know that Henderson County, which is similar to us in that they have one major city, they have a rate of 9.75, and they generate $3 million off of theirs. So their 1% is generating about $300,000 in the county. So I would guess we're somewhere between 300 and 750. I doubt we're at 750. We're not. You know, I would think Paducah, the amount that's going to be generated per density is going to be higher in Paducah than in the county.
But I'd like, I'd like to suggest that we start out lower.
Sure.
I assume you'll have the privilege of raising it after you see what you receive.
I just assume I go through this.
No, me neither.
We may not have the privilege, but some fiscal court.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, if it's 3%, and you go a year or 2 years with it at 3, and it's still not balancing out, then go to.
We'll go back
instead of starting at 7. 6.99. 7 is a good round figure.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
Thank you. I heard a couple questions. Number one, Scott, I'd appreciate it if you don't leave yet, because I want to hear from you personally about, you said there were some particular lines of insurance that you were concerned about, and I would have interest in having that conversation with you about what lines you would be and how we might tailor our ordinance so that doesn't happen if it's possible. Mary King, you mentioned, and several people mentioned changing the pension and the pension benefits. And what I think maybe hadn't come through yet is that new county employees don't get the same pension benefits as a county employee that was hired 25 years ago. It has been changed for new employees significantly, and we're not in charge of making that deal. Somebody else makes that deal for us. We're part of a County Employee Retirement System, CERS, and the state says you will be part of it, and here's how it will function. But new employees don't get the same benefits as employees got 25 years ago. Somebody asked about the county debt, and I have that list here. I had down who had asked about it. Jeff Newton, you asked about it. I've got a list of the county debt, and I'll give you that now. Generally, if you back out all of the convention center debt, your county's in debt about $18 million. Mr. Hamilton, I think you asked, how did this happen? And I think you can take generally, we were kind of living with the jail deficit. We've always had the jail deficit. But starting in 2011, we got aggressive with some debt and borrowed about $16.5 million in between 2011 and 2013. That was the year of Murray State University. That was originally a $10 million debt. That was the year of Genova. That was the year of Teletech and the years of Whitehall. So that added to the debt service. At the same time, you've got the increase in pension cost. I think that's about up from 2011 to 2018, about an increase of $500,000. And then more significantly is the cost of health insurance per employees or for county employees. And that went up, I think, would have gone up $1 million from 2011 to 2020, but we changed the insurance carrier and it's gone up about $800,000. We saved about $200,000 by making a change last year. Some of you have already heard this. I'm going to give it again one more time. If you live in the county and you work in the city, what do you pay in county taxes? And let's presume that you live in a house worth $250,000. Well, you get a tax bill for $2,500, so you feel like you're giving Judge Clymer, Jones, and Parker, and Bartleman $2,500, but you're not. You're giving the county government, of that $2,500, you are giving $250 to county government. Most of that goes to the school system. Some of that goes to the library. Some of that goes to your volunteer fire department, health department. There are some other specialties. The state, yeah. But if you work in the city or you don't work, and you live in a $250,000 house, then basically what you're paying is $250 for county government. If you live in a $100,000 house, you're paying $100 for county government. I realize nobody wants to hear this, but if that's your situation, for $250, you're getting a jail that keeps 600 inmates out of your backyard. You're getting a dog warden that keeps, you got to take a visit out there. Some of those puppies are cute. Some of them are not cute. and they're staying out of your backyard. If something happens tonight, you're going to dial 911 and somebody's going to answer that phone, and the sheriff's going to send one of his 25 road deputies trained. He's got about 50, 60 boys, but 25 road deputies out to respond to your 911 call, and you're getting that service for less than $1 a day. Now, I'm not trying to sell you that this tax ought to feel great and you ought to be proud to pay it. I get it. But I just want you to understand that generally our operations are paid for by people who own the house, and that basically that small amount of money for $250,000, so that $250 for a $250,000 house, and by people who work in the county, people who don't work in the city. Because the city, if you've ever noticed, I don't know if you've ever looked at the map and how the city has grown in these odd fingers. Well, there's a reason for that. Because the city gets to charge 2% on the employment wage. So when something like, what's that, Menards comes in, they're going to have employees. Guess what happens? The city makes a deal and they annex it. And I'm not critical of that. That's what the law allows. There's a crazy Supreme Court decision. They shouldn't have made it, but they did. And over the last 15 years, it's allowed cities to grow in this way that has truly crippled counties, particularly counties of our size. Because of our size, we are capped, and we are not allowed to increase our occupational tax. We are capped by law at 1%, whereas the city is not capped, and they're charging 2%. So that's why you're seeing a growing number of counties do the insurance tax. Now let's talk about why we've done the 6.9 on automotive and 4.9 on the other lines. And with it, well, we haven't done it. That's been the motion. So that may or may not be. But the theory behind that is, well, you remember how you felt when you found out there were some people whose property wasn't on the list, the omitted list? And remember how you felt? You know, well, that ain't fair. They didn't pay. And somebody has said, well, I keep hearing that thing, well, you're going to tax something we got to buy already by law. And I guess the answer to that is yes. And one of the reasons that's attractive is because that will keep us from experiencing that feeling of, well, why didn't they have to pay? By taxing the one thing that everybody has to buy, then we're able to share the burden with everybody.
May I just say one thing?
No, ma'am.
That's up to him.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We've got to go forward.
I'm on a roll, and he knows I'll finish up faster if I don't interrupt. So the automotive, the way we tried to structure this is a little more complicated than Steve's Carlisle County approach, and that is to understand that there are lots of people in the county that own a car but don't own a house. And in order to paint that broad stroke, to try and make sure everybody's paying their share, that's why the car, or the automotive, was 6.9, less than the city rate. A little bit, not much, but less than the city rate. And then we just wanted to give, because that person who owns the house probably also owns the car, we wanted to reverse it kind of in the opposite way that your insurance company does it, is give you a discount on the fact of you're having to pay insurance on your house. That was the theory. I've heard the expression that we've got some numbers that aren't transparent. I haven't looked online to see if we have audits. We've got audits. We've paid as much as $40,000 for some audits that weren't done, so we've got them. I've seen them, and there ought to be a way we can get them online. And they're online.
They're online.
Okay.
I was on there. What's not accessible, the link to the 15-16 budget and the 14-15 financials doesn't seem to be working. But all the other links for more current information is working.
Okay. Thank you. I'll say this about jail deficits. These guys won't appreciate me. But the 3 people we ought to pay to go to lunch every week are David Knight, Todd Jones, and Chris Hollowell. And that, if we make them go to lunch once a week, that will bring that jail cost down, because it's your 2 district judges that actually control your county inmate, and Jailer Knight, he'll be quick to point out to the judges which ones we need to maybe are paying too much for. I'm just going to throw that out there for fun and see what happens next time I go to court. Thank you.
Were you through, Jeff?
I'm through.
Anything else you wanted to add? I already said my say at the front end, but, I do appreciate that you all came here today. That's what, local government is about. We're here, we're accessible, we'll remain accessible. I've got an office here. I'm here every day, most of the day. The Duke's son prints our email address. I don't do quite often.
And sometimes it's accurate.
Yeah. So we're accessible. We had, I don't know, what do we have, 26 or something? What are phone calls?
Phone calls in at 68.
Had 68 phone calls come in, and we've got that information from those folks. Nobody wants to raise taxes. I think we've looked at everything that we possibly can, but we'll go back and we're doing this, doing a meeting again. It'll be a reading of this ordinance Monday evening, this coming Monday evening, 5 o'clock, and invite, I guess we would prefer to allow other people that couldn't be here today to come and speak at that. That's why it's 5 o'clock and this was 1:30. Yes, ma'am, right here. But and so probably what we'll do is have people that haven't talked already to address us, and we'll do the same format. But if we have time, then y'all want to come back, and you, ma'am, if you wanted to come back and try again, we'll be willing to hear from you again, if assuming we've got the time to do that. We get email, we get phone calls, come by and see us, and I just, I think these gentlemen have pretty well covered everything that we have. I did want to say just roughly one thing I think that's terribly unfair that the state should address, and of course, I never really thought about it, and you guys, gentlemen and ladies, probably have not, but the county is really a child of the state, and they created counties, and they give us, like you do your child, some room to do certain things, and some room we can't. One of the obligations we have as a county is to have a jail, not just have the jail, but to cover the costs of everybody that goes in the jail up until the point that they, and if they get convicted of a state crime. A lot of city folks, a lot of city residents that are in the county jail, county's covering all that cost. People that travel from Alaska and Wisconsin and Florida and all come through here, if they get arrested, go to our jail, you and us, we're covering that cost. And I think that's not fair. The state should cover the cost of making us incarcerate people from the city and other states and all that. But
Judge, you want me to clear up exactly what an inmate costs?
If you want to.
Right. If we took our budget today and I cut all of the state and federal inmates out of it, we would house roughly between 250 and 300 county inmates. That would come down to about $73 a day, because I would only be able to cut my medical and food in half. Lights cost the same, it costs the same to staff a building that size. With adding the state inmates, I didn't even figure in the federal, just doing quick math, it brings us down to about $12 a day. So that's why we house these state inmates and federal inmates. It cuts our expenses down tremendously. The expenses don't come down, I'm sorry, the income, it offsets it. We bring in about $5 million a year to cover the $7.3 million budget we have. So we get a $7.3 million jail for $2.3 million. So maybe that clears it up a little bit. It does not cost us money to house state and federal inmates. We make money on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, what was I? Or something along that. We also, and I can tell you this, between the four of us, I tell one person in particular what I tell my dog: go lay down by your bowl. He's constantly, as long as Commissioner Bartleman, Commissioner Parker as well, and and I tell groups when I go talk to them, you elected a restless body here, and we are trying. We see where we are. We know, I know some people really want that pound of flesh, and who did this, who got us here. We can learn from what was done, how it occurred, and that sort of thing. We can learn from that. But we are, I believe, doing an extraordinary job, and I've got an extraordinary staff with Steve Doolittle that's been in county government for years, with city government for years. He knows the ins and outs of all that. Steve Irvin also, that we just hired, that knows all the ins and outs to try to find ways. And before we ever got to any tax issues, can we tighten our belt? Can we get Steve Irvin's looking at grants? What can we do? We don't want a grant. And the thing with grants is a lot of times it's not a project that you'd really put on up high. It's a project that, okay, we can get some grant money to do something that we probably wouldn't do. And then we got to throw money in with it, a matching grant. Do we want to do that? We got some free money, but it's not a high priority thing. We're going to pass up that money. But we are constantly, and I'll tell you, it's difficult. Look at every different area and what can we do, what the other counties do, and we're searching all that constantly. I know, just like I said at the first, nobody wants a tax of any kind. You do want to live in a nice county. What's nice mean? We're not looking at anything superfluous, anything that's I don't know, frivolous, something that we're looking at just providing basic, strong county services that we need. It's been a priority of us, and we're going to get it done with this transient room tax. This tax is not going to go towards sports facilities or soccer fields. Eddie here came up with a mechanism to fund that, but you don't want tax, we don't want tax, but I can tell you, whatever we do here, we've got to have some revenue, and I think, and I understand there's always fringe at the end that people who will have some difficulties. There are people who just don't really like it, people who really have some difficulties, and then there's people that just won't even notice it. But I think if you will give us some leeway, if you will I think these guys are really trying to do the best they can, turn around a bad situation and make it better as well as we can under the law and with the state governing us, that you're going to see that we're going to have a few wows in the future, and can't really talk about them right now, but things are going to get generated, and hopefully that will help. So I invite you to come contact us, and we'll be available to talk to you and that sort of thing. So thank you very much for being here with us.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. We got a motion, second. We're adjourned.